Wisconsin Supreme Court race is tremendously key. Now, apparently there is a caveat to it, and maybe, KK and a few others can speak to this, but apparently the GOP still has a 2/3 majority. Now, what that allows them to do potentially is kick judges off the court. Now, are they going to really get in the mud on this? Oh, well, if what Smelly Kelly is any indication based on what he said last night, even though he literally got his ass kicked, is, yeah, they're going to fight dirty because that's what they do.
It's not like it was even close. Like, no. If it was, but that's the thing. It's like, you could have sour grapes and you could claim whatever, like, improprieties or whatever. But when it's this much of like a beating, it's just, you really don't, it's not good. It's not a good look to be complaining about it.
Well, let's show the audience exactly what we're talking about. Can you pronounce her name?
No, I'm calling her Judge Janet P.
Judge Janet P. I can get on board with that.
We can just call her Judge P.
So this is what happened last night.
Protasiewicz? I don't want to. Just Judge P.
Okay, Judge P.
And trust me, I think she'd be cool with that.
I think she would as well.
She understands. Her name is not. Yeah, I'm not.
Is projected a result in the very important Wisconsin Supreme Court election tonight. Janet Protasiewicz is the more liberal of the two candidates. Dan Kelly, the more conservative of the two candidates. The most consequential election in the country in the year 2023. The more liberal of the two judicial candidates here. This has very big consequences for Wisconsin and indeed for the country. I will just point out a couple of things here. This may very well mean that there is a deciding vote in the Wisconsin Supreme Court that results in abortion being legal in Wisconsin instead of illegal. It also means that Wisconsin, which is arguably the most gerrymandered state in the country, may finally get what are considered to be fair maps rather than radical Republican maps. And now the majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court for the first time in more than a decade will flip from hard right conservative control to progressive control. NBC News is projected a result in the very important
I don't know what we're allowed to do.
So yes, this is obviously a significant outcome, and but here I'm going to offer a unique critique of what has happened. And yes, Smelly Kelly, of course, came out and said, "I will not dignify this woman. It is."
He basically said that he would concede if there was a candidate worthy of conceding to. But here's the thing,
Smelly Kelly. How pathetic of a candidate can you be if you can't even admit that you lost to somebody?
And this is one of the reasons I love Bo as much as I love Bo, as he said. He's like, that's the beauty of elections. You don't need to concede.
Yeah. It's true.
Especially elections won by this margin.
Well, the only time you really do ever have to worry about conceding is if it's within the margin of error. That's about it. Because then, depending on how close it is, could be a recount. He lost by almost 20 points. So, dude, just shut the F up. Swear to God. But I will say this, and Double K, it is a great day because the significance of Janet P. becoming the Supreme Court Justice in Wisconsin means the following. The judiciary now flips 4-3 from conservative to liberal. So what that means now is 3 things are going to occur as a result if things play out the way that they should. Abortion rights are now secure in Wisconsin.
I wouldn't say that. I'd say that their archaic law will likely be overturned, but I would not say that anything is safe anywhere.
Fair enough. Especially because of the federal Supreme Court that we have. Fair enough. Do they want that fight? I'm going to explain why I don't think they do in a minute. Number 2. Fair district maps, very likely to occur as a result of this. States like Ohio, New York, Florida, not so fair.
It must be very important for whoever has it in a corrupt manner to keep it so, or this wouldn't have been such a valuable the position for them. So that to me screams some sort of something funky there in Wisconsin. If you're worried about your party can't win unless your corrupt gerrymandering stays intact, that doesn't speak well.
Definitely not a good look. And then, of course, what you also have to remember is that if you're going to ungerrymander the districts, one of the key caveats here is that currently,
thank you, Doug,
in Wisconsin, the Republicans hold a 2/3 majority in the state house. Now, how would that look if it were fair maps? It would flip quite a bit, maybe even flip even, maybe even flip blue, you never know. And then finally, of course, you're talking about voting rights. You know, a lot of times, everyone talks about voting rights, most of it is BS. But the fact of the matter is, as Double K points out, the gerrymandering in Wisconsin is so bad that what ends up happening is you get a lot of voter suppression. Not that they can't vote, but they choose not to because there's no point.
So, we get that. Like, I understand that just from our experiences in certain parts of this place. I lived in Texas in the 2000 Bush-Gore election. Talk about no point.
JR,
I feel you.
1,000% correct. Scott Walker was the Frankenstein monster, if you will, of the Koch brothers. It is essentially what started this whole thing. I can still remember the night that Ann Coulter was on Bill Maher back in June of 2015. I remember this like it was yesterday when she said who was going to be the Republican nominee. She said Donald Trump. And that was when everybody laughed at her and thought that she was nuts. Of course, I didn't think she was nuts.
Oh, I think she's nuts, but not because of that.
Well, she's nuts because she's just, she's just nuts. Doesn't mean she's not smart. But her ticket at the time that she wanted for president in 2015 was Romney Walker. So it just goes to show you how much lunacy exists.
But it's amazing how, you take a state like Wisconsin, which is a very working class, Rust Belt, working union type state, and you get into a situation where you have the minority controlling a majority, and it is because of gerrymandering. So then the question is, what will it look like if the districts are fair? I don't think things would necessarily change as much as people think they will, that dramatically. In most places. Like, I think you'll see some shifts, but I don't think you'll see as much of changes as people think they'll see from gerrymandering.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The thing that you're going to have to look out for, and, Double K, anybody else who may be catching this podcast tonight, my understanding is that the GOP still holds a 2/3 majority in the House. Love you, doll. We really do.
Look at that.
Scotty and
what
Union
is Doug
POS.
saying?
John Nichols did the majority report.
I like Nichols.
John, yeah. We should have asked John to come on.
Well, we can reach out and ask John to come on. I really like him. He's been on a couple times.
John Nichols of The Nation is definitely, in terms of journalists, definitely one of our favorites.
Yeah, to me, he's like in the top few people we've had on.
You guys are definitely going to want to tune in for the Gen Z report tomorrow night. Not only is Jen going to be on the podcast, I'm going to be on, but who else is going to be joining?
Harvey K is coming on to be talking labor and stuff with our Gen Zers.
As well as, I think his name is William Butler, I want to say. Let me check.
So it'll be really interesting. I was, Harvey wanted.
William Walter of Our Revolution, Wisconsin will be coming on as well. And he is Gen Z. So that will be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So Double K and anybody else who could potentially speak to this, my understanding is that because the GOP still holds a 2/3 majority in the House, they still have the ability to potentially, or at least try to impeach the judges. If there is any truth to that, that was something I heard today, and obviously we would want to know, because that is pretty significant, knowing that they're going to really get into the mud and try to play dirty in terms of avoiding the inevitable, which is, and again, the abortion rights issue, changing the maps. That is great. And Harvey will, I'm sure, be able to speak to that when he comes on tomorrow.
That was the other thing that, the Gen Z kids have been very invested in this race. One of our kids is actually in Wisconsin. He won't be on tomorrow. But it has been very good inside information into what goes on up there. That's where we got Smelly Kelly. Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.